Good morning, leaders. So we are the group 7 and today we are going to report about the post-colonial criticism. My group mates are Eden, Romy, and Rosemary, and I am Jonabel Ticas. So now let's proceed to our learning objectives. At the end of the lesson, students should be able to define the concept of post-colonial criticism and its focus on the cultural, social, and political impacts of colonialism in literature. Explain how post-colonial criticism is applied to literary works, and apply post-colonial criticism to a specific literary work such as Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe to analyze themes of resistance, hybridity, and the enduring effects of colonialism. Now, I am giving the floor to our first reporter.
Good morning, leaders. I am Romy Argirus and I will going to report the post-colonial. Refers to the period of condition that exists after the end of colonial rule. It generally refers to the political, social, cultural, and economic impacts on formerly colonized countries and people. Post-colonial, the term is often used to describe the study of these effects, which can include the struggle for identity, the persistence or inequality, and the lasting influence of the colonizing powers. Post-colonialism also focuses on the ways in which literature, art, and other cultural expressions reflect the aftermath of colonialism as well as the resistance of colonial ideologies and the reclaiming for indigenous traditions and identities. Thank you, and that's all my report.
Good morning everyone, I am Idin Icanyariho and I am the next reporter. So, post-colonial criticism, it is a literary theory and critical approach that examines the cultural, social, and political effects of colonialism as represented in literature. So, post-colonial criticism, it is focused on how colonial powers shape the identities, values, and narratives of both the colonizer and colonized. So, post-colonial criticism explore the lingering impacts of colonization on both the colonizing and colonized societies, emphasizing the themes of the power, identity, race, resistance, and the legacy of exploitation.
Good day, everyone. I am Rosemary Tano, and the topic that I'm going to report is about the post-colonial criticism. Post-colonial criticism is applied to literary works. Colonial literature often depicted colonized peoples as inferior or exotic, reinforcing stereotypes that justify domination. Post-colonial criticism also examines these narratives, focusing on how power dynamics and resistance to colonial control are represented. It also explores cultural survival and identity negotiation in the wake of colonization. So the use of colonial languages in post-colonial literature serves both as a tool of dominance and a means of resistance, often reshaped to reflect hybrids identities. So through these critiques, post-colonial literature reclaims power and redefines identity in a post-colonial context.
Good morning, everyone. I am Jonabel Pitigas, and today I am going to report the application of post-colonial criticism. So, we are going to critique a literary piece, and that is Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. First is resistance. The theme of resistance is central to Things Fall Apart, both in the character's actions and in the narrative itself. Okonkwo, the protagonist, embodies resistance to colonial forces. He fiercely opposes the changes brought by the British, particularly the introduction of Christianity and the undermining of Igbo traditions. His refusal to accept the new order represents the struggle of many indigenous people against colonial domination. Next is hybridity. Post-colonial criticism often explores the concept of hybridity, which refers to the blending of cultural elements from the colonizer and the colonized. In Things Fall Apart, hybridity emerges as a source of both tension and transformation within Igbo society. The arrival of Christianity and Western governance creates a hybrid cultural space where traditional and colonial practices coexist uneasily. For instance, characters like Nwoye, Okonkwo-san embody this hybridity. Nwoye's conversion to Christianity symbolizes the generational and ideological shifts caused by colonial influence. Lastly, the enduring effects of colonialism. The novel vividly portrays the destructive and lasting effects of colonialism on indigenous societies. Achebe portrays the systematic dismantling of Igbo society under British imperialism, highlighting the erosion of traditional governance through the imposition of colonial judicial and administrative systems. The diminished authority of village elders and the disregard for local customs symbolize this cultural disintegration. The novel also explores the internal conflicts and identity crisis caused by colonization, and as seen in Okonkwo's resistance to change and Nwoye's rejection of his heritage. The closing perspective of the British District Commissioner underscores the erasure of Igbo voices, reducing Okonkwo's life to a footnote in colonial ethnography. This critique exposes the dehumanizing and reductive narratives used to justify colonial denomination. And lastly, for our summary, post-colonial criticism is a literary theory that examines the cultural, social, and political effects of colonialism, particularly in literature. It focuses on the ways in which colonization shapes the identities, values, and experiences of both the colonized and the colonizers. This critical approach explores themes such as the representation of colonized people, the power dynamics between colonizers and the colonized, and the struggle for cultural identity in the aftermath of colonialism. And that is a report for post-colonial criticism. Thank you and God bless everyone.